Lesson 5-3, Day 3. Our learning target says I can solve inequalities involving multiple steps. Our essential question says what things do you need to write an inequality for a word problem? So what are the things that you need? We've worked with word problems before, so hopefully this is familiar to you. Now this first slide has our symbols, and then it's got some words underneath. So what I want you to remember, we talked about these before. We talked about how each of these symbols has a lot of different words that can be represented by that symbol. So the first one is less than. The second one, greater than. The third one, less than or equal to. So far, all I'm doing is giving you the most common names. And then the last one, greater than or equal to. Remember that your left hand shows you the less than symbols. Left hand, less than. And then your right hand is the greater than symbols. So left hand, L for left, L for less. Now some other words that we talked about, instead of less than, you may see fewer than. And we talked about for greater than, that you may see more than. We talked about the tricky ones. Less than or equal to is the same as no more than. So if it's not more than, think about the opposite. Not more than, it could be less than or equal to. And we talked about how confusing it is to see that word more in different places. No less than is actually the same as greater than or equal to because it's not less than. Not less than. And then we also talked about the words at most and at least in the same way. At most and at least are the opposite of what you would expect. If I have at most $10, that means at the very most I have 10, so that means less than or equal to 10. So at most and no more than mean less than or equal to. No less than or at least mean greater than or equal to. So being able to translate the words into inequality symbols is an important piece to writing an inequality for a word problem. All right, so write an inequality and solve. This one says 4 times a number plus 12 is less than the number minus 3. So when it says the number, you get to pick a variable. So I am going to use the letter X to represent the number. So the number that we do not know. If I start at the beginning and just go in order on this problem, it works. 4 times a number. 4 times a number would be 4x. Then it says plus, so that's a math operation, plus 12. So 4 times a number plus 12. And then we've got our is less than, so left hand, less than, the number, so I need another x, minus, it's a math operation, subtraction, 3. Okay, so the things that I circled the plus and minus and the is less than, because those are representing our math operations and our inequality symbol. Remember that what we need in our equation, we're going to need letter, at least one letter. We're going to need numbers. We're going to need math operations. And we're going to need inequality symbol. So there's 4 things that we're looking for. Letters, numbers, math operations, inequality symbol. Now that we've got our inequality, we can solve it. I'm going to put a 1 in front of my plane x. Because I've got two terms with variables here, variable on each side, I subtract away the smaller one. You want to cancel out the smaller variable, so it's a positive 1x. I need to subtract it. 4x minus 1x is 3x, and now I can finish solving. I still have 2 steps left. The inverse of adding 12 is subtracting 12. Negative 3 minus 12 is negative 15. Remember, subtracting does not change my inequality symbol. My last step, I'm dividing by 3, and because it's a positive 3, I do not flip my symbol. So x is less than negative 5 is my final answer. Next one. 3/4 of a number increased by 4 is greater than negative 2. Okay, 3/4. So 3/4. I'm going to use x for my number again. 3/4 of. Of happens to mean multiply. So 3/4 of a number means 3/4 x. Increased by means plus 4 is greater than negative 2. So of means to multiply. 3/4 of a number is 3/4 times x. Now I only have one variable here, so I can subtract 4. So 3/4 x is greater than negative 6. And then remember, when you have a fraction times the variable, you should multiply by the reciprocal on both sides to clear your fraction. So reciprocal means you're just flipping over the fraction. So now the 4's and 3's all cancel out. Because that fraction is positive, I do not flip my symbol. I need to put a 1 under the negative 6 and multiply straight across. Negative 6 times 4, and then 1 times 3. And I can simplify that by dividing. Negative 24 divided by 3 is negative 8. So x is greater than negative 8. Sample number 3. Dan has $800 in the bank and makes $12 an hour at his job. How many hours does he need to work to buy a car for $2,600? So my variable this time, I'm going to use h for hours because they're asking how many hours. How many hours does he need to work? Now, this problem's a little bit different. He is starting with $800. So I am going to start with $800. He makes $12 an hour. So that means plus 12h. Because he's earning $12 each hour, that's where you would multiply your variable. He's trying to buy a car for $2,600. So he needs at least $2,600. At least means greater than or equal to. If he has less than $2,600, he cannot buy the car. Now to solve this, let's subtract the $800 that he already has. So subtract 800, and we've got $1,800 that he's trying to earn. So then if we divide by 12, we will figure out how many hours he needs to work. So $1,800 divided by 12 is 150. So I am going to answer this one because it's a word problem. To answer it with a sentence. Dan needs to work at least 150 hours to buy the car. Next one. The Drama Club collected $160 from ticket sales for the spring play. They need to collect at least $400 for new lighting. If tickets sell for $3 each, how many more tickets need to be sold? So my variable this time, I'm going to use T for tickets. They collected $160. So far they have collected $160. Plus, they are selling tickets for $3 each. So 3T. They need at least, so greater than or equal to $400 for their lighting. So, T for tickets, $3 each, so you attach the 3 to the letter T. Subtract the 160 to start out because they've already collected 160. They're trying to see how many more tickets they need to sell. So 400 minus 160 is 240. So 240. And then if I divide both sides by 3, 240 divided by 3 is 80. So how many more tickets need to be sold? The Drama Club needs to sell at least 80 more tickets for new lighting. All right, that was the last example. So hopefully you understand what you need to write an inequality for a word problem and solve it.